Hi, my name's Paul. I'm also called Knickknack, and I'm the brains behind Knickknack's Old Peculiar, which is a blog. I'm the brains behind this YouTube channel, Mr. Cuddy2977, and I publish the daily teaser quiz on both. I also do movie and TV reviews as well. Whilst writing the introduction to today's daily teaser on Knickknack's Old Peculiar, I realised that Sir Keir Starmer, the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, was going to introduce a form of digital ID of Britons of working age to show that we're eligible to work in the UK. Indeed, I think he made the announcement a couple of hours ago at a big speech. I have to confess that I don't like the idea one little bit for various reasons, and I thought I should address a video to Sir Keir to tell him personally and directly I think it's a bad idea. I don't think he's going to listen to me. I don't think he's going to listen to you, but at the very least, I've got YouTube to say, "Oi, Sir Keir, this is not a good idea." Sir Keir, all I can ask you at the moment is that I hope you're watching this and pay attention to it. If you are, Sir Keir, your planned mandatory digital ID scheme presents problems, especially for those of us on benefits. The scheme, as it stands, from what I've understood, is supposed to be an app for smartphones. For those of us who have one and are comfortable using it, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. For those of us who are on universal credit, who can't afford a modern phone, I have to ask you, Sir Keir, where on earth are we supposed to get the money to buy a modern smartphone? Where? I've got at least one friend and neighbour, Dave, lives around the corner, who's on an old-fashioned 3G phone that he can't afford to replace. It's a phone that's as far from smart as it is possible to get. I've got to ask you, Sir Keir, will you be giving Dave the money to buy a smartphone? One he can transfer his number over to with a new modern SIM card. Can you teach him how to use the thing? And can you, I repeat, giving him the money to buy that phone? I'm assuming, Sir Keir, that if you can't buy Dave a smartphone for this scheme, then you can't find smartphones for other job seekers in the UK, nor, I suspect, can you teach us how to use them. Now, from what I've seen on the news, we are the people that you are insisting must have these IDs so that we can show we have the right to work in the UK. It is pointless to do so, to insist on mandatory IDs if we can't afford, let alone use, that smartphone. There's an alternative to a smartphone, Sir Keir. It's to issue a digital ID card, a physical digital ID card that's about the same size as a modern chip and pin contactless bank card, about ye deep, ye wide, something like that. Again, you could have the relevant ID details shoved on the chip and have it read by a card reader, something like a card reader you get at your restaurant. And again, I can see problems there, Sir Keir. For starters, what on earth would be the point of that? Really, what would be the point? When most of us on benefits who have to show we have a right to work in the UK will already have a passport or a driver's licence that proves our citizenship. We literally will already have something like that. The second issue, again, comes back to money, Sir Keir. Who pays for this theoretical ID card? In my case, I've got a driver's license to use as ID for job interviews because a few job interviewers insisted I have one or a passport, and it's a driver's license that was paid for by my local job centre as I had a demonstrable need for one and couldn't afford to pay for it myself. Do you see my point, Sir Keir? Would you, or the DWP, or your government, pay for a physical ID card, Sir Keir? And I suspect, I will be honest here, I suspect that the answer you'd honestly give is no. There's probably other questions as well, Sir Keir. One of my blog's regular older readers raised one issue. Would people over 65 need these? I don't think they would, but again, it does raise the issue that they may not be able to afford a smartphone, nor would they be able to use it fully if they could. There's other groups who'd have issues as well. I know at least 2 people with severe dyslexia who can just about manage to operate their phone to phone people, but if you sent them an email, they would not be able to read it. They could have the perfect job for them, but they could not be able to read it because they have a severe learning disability that stops them reading a message on their phone. There's probably other groups as well. As a minor issue, would legal asylum seekers need one? Would legal migrants here legally need one to show they can work in the UK? How would that work, Sir Keir? Who shows them how to use their phone? Would they need that phone? And who pays for those phones if they do? You tell me, Sir Keir. If I had no smartphone, Sir Keir, no way of affording it, or a physical ID card, and no way of getting the money either from the DWP, yourself personally, or from the government, if I had no way of paying for that ID card or a smartphone, could I still use my driver's license? The one the DWP paid for all those years ago. Could I still do that? Could I still use a passport if I had one? Could we use alternatives, Sir Keir? If neither I nor Dave or anyone else I know, if we couldn't afford those forms of ID, someone would need to pay for them for us to show that we have a right for the job, or we would need alternatives. If we can't afford the ID that you want to make mandatory, Sir Keir, we can't afford those forms of ID, Sir Keir, that means we can't get jobs. That, Sir Keir, makes this mandatory scheme expensive, counterproductive, and quite frankly, idiotic, especially coming from a bright man like yourself. Putting this in action is your decision, Sir Keir, and as it stands, it's a bad move. Right then, that's me done for this evening. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you if you decide to hit like, subscribe, and the tip jar that's in the corner there for liking, subscribing, and putting some money in the tip jar if you've got the cash. I need a new smartphone, hey-ho. On a more serious note, there's a comment section under this video, especially if you're on a mobile or on a desktop device. Feel free to leave me a polite, relevant comment about what you think about what I've said here. Basically, if you haven't got a smartphone for a digital ID card, you're going to need the money to buy one, or you're going to need an alternative that you can afford and use. Leave me a comment, folks. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you at the next daily teaser. That will be tomorrow. Thank you for listening.